So yes, I will present on the socioeconomic and school readiness gap and whether or not we can try to reduce it using early childhood education and care services. So briefly, just to define what is school readiness, it's cognitive, physical, the social, language, and communication skills that altogether allow the children to actually learn new material in the school environment, and so also to be happy and fulfilled in the school environment. It's important because it's associated with later academic success, and so also later income in life, and so less health issues. What we noticed, however, is that 20% of students have low school readiness when they enter school, in something we observed both in Quebec, but also across Canada and in most countries in the world. So we are a little bit worried about that. And so we know that socioeconomic status can influence school readiness. We measure socioeconomic status according to two concepts. There is first family socioeconomic status, and we know that there is a gradient in how much children are ready for school. So basically, like the most deprived children are less likely to be ready for school, and the more advantaged children are more likely to be ready for school. And this has been observed, for example, in Quebec. But there's also another part of the socioeconomic status, which would be the school socioeconomic status. We know that actually children who are in more advantaged school benefit from a lot of services and a lot of activities, and they benefit a lot from this environment. At the same time, and at the opposite, like children who actually attend more deprived school suffer from a lot of difficulty that can gather all together. So less resources, less activities, and sometimes more violence in the school and so on. So we were going to look at whether school socioeconomic status can actually influence school readiness in Quebec. Because most of the children actually today go to early childhood education and care services, we were wondering whether or not we could consider it as public health intervention when promoting school readiness across Quebec. Just to give a little bit of a context, in Quebec, there are several services that are provided. So there are services provided in residential settings, but there are also the child care centers, which are more school-based program with an education program. It's called CPE for Centre de la Petite Enfance. And there is also the kindergarten, which is offered mainly for family from lower socioeconomic status, and it's available when children are actually age 4. We also have the Passepartout program, which is offered in school for children age 4 years old, and it's a program that's for both family and children, and it's aimed at facilitating the transition from the preschool to the school environment for everybody. So using all this, we were wondering what's happening in Quebec. Like, can we really use these like childcare services to improve school readiness and reduce the socioeconomic disparities that we tend to observe? And as it has been mentioned a couple of times today, we are very lucky because in Quebec, we have the Quebec Survey of Child Development in Kindergarten, or the ECDEM, which is conducted every 5 years. So it's been conducted in 2012, 17, and 2022. And so here we're going to look at the data from 2017, and we are lucky because 49.8% of the children in kindergarten during the 2017 school year have actually been assessed in this study, which is very good because it's about 83,000 children. So it's about the whole province. The even better part is that we know who are these 5.2% of children who didn't participate, because the study is conducted by the Quebec Statistics Institute, so they can tell us who has participated and who hasn't. And based on that, they create weight to approximate the total population. And so we can have our estimation considering that the whole population would have participated to the study. So we measured school readiness using the early development instrument that has been presented before in other presentation. But briefly, like there are 5 dimensions, like has been said: physical health and well-being, social competence, emotional maturity, language and cognitive development, communication skills, and general knowledge. For the purpose of this presentation, we define children as being not school ready as children being vulnerable or scoring below the 10th inferior percent of the school readiness score. Further, we define school socioeconomic status. So for that, we use the measure that's created by the Ministry of Education based on the census data from 2016. And so it's composed of two index. You have first like the proportion of mother without a high school diploma that account for 2/3 of the index. And then you have the proportion of families where the parents are unemployed, and that account for 1/3 of the school socioeconomic status. So now if we look at the results, very rapidly here, we present the proportion of students who are not school ready according to the school socioeconomic status. And we see that there's clear gradients. So the more children tend to be disadvantaged, the more likely they are to not be school ready. And so the more they are advantaged, the more likely they are to be ready. And so we see a clear gradient. Now, if you want to look at the moderating role of the childcare services in this gradient, we see again here that actually the gradient remain when children are in each services, but actually depending on the services, the proportion of students who are not school ready decrease. So for example, the proportion here, we don't see my pointer. Okay, let's say the first 3 ones in parental care, we see that the difference between the disadvantaged and the advantaged children is about an effect size of 0.6. But then when children attend pre-kindergarten, this difference goes to 0.48, and then so on and so on. And so actually when children attend both childcare and pre-kindergarten services, the difference is about 0.03%. And then the difference is not significant anymore between the more advantaged and the more disadvantaged schools. It's interesting because as it's been kindly presented before, we use propensity score weighting to take into account whether or not children who are more advantaged or disadvantaged would attend different services. So the results we observe here are free from confounding effect or social selection bias. So it's really the effect of childcare services that we observed. The positive result is that we can decrease the inequalities, but the bad result is that we don't eliminate totally the inequalities that are in Quebec. So yes, that's my conclusion. There are inequalities. We can actually contribute to decrease them, but we cannot erase them fully. And so, yeah, for the future direction, we were thinking about looking at the long-term inequalities in school achievement. So that these inequalities we observe at school entry maintain in time. And so we would like as well to compare this result to 2022 to see if the inequalities were the same in time or not, and if other factors are associated with school readiness, such as like mother tongue or so on. Thank you.
We've heard time and time again over the last 2 days about the differences in quality of the early childcare. Have you looked at that?
Yes, thank you. As we know, depending on the childcare, you have different qualities. So childcare services who are subsidized tend to have higher quality than others. And mainly here, I go just some slide after here, we can see that pre-kindergarten is less effective in countering the social inequalities, but actually is a service that has also the lowest quality in Quebec because like the ratio educator per children is higher, for example. So yeah. Thank you.